everybody. Hi, my spooky darlings. Welcome back to another video from yours truly, Scaredy Cat. And today is a special day. Yay! You want to know why? Because I actually got sent over on my Reddit from a couple of Reddit users who are now subscribers here on this channel, who sent over some spooky, scary stories to yours truly. And yeah, it's a special day. I'm very excited to read their stories, hear what they have to say, and I believe we have 3 stories to look at. And I also am going to read some spooky, scary stories from Halloween is when these came out. And I didn't get to read a lot of Halloween stories or scary stories for Halloween at all. So that is something I'm going to probably put either in this video if we have enough time or the next video. Either way, enjoy some scary stories today. So this is our first subscriber story over on their Reddit is where they sent this, and they would like to have their username out there. So we are going to call her U/ashamed, capital A for ashamed, underscore solid underscore 4343. Now, this is the title. It is called I'm Being Watched by a Dog. And they are pretty sure that they saw something that was more than a dog. So it's up to you guys to decide, was it a dog or was it something else? I live in a pretty average neighborhood, as I'd like to say, and I've never really had any problems with animals here, like ever. Usually you just get the occasional house cat or dog, and my neighbors have chickens as well. Now, I usually take walks, but they're brief and short. But on this particular humid Sunday, I would decide to go for a longer walk. About 10 blocks in, I noticed a cute little cluster of houses, and I decided to just go check them out. One of them was a little 2-story house that looked almost like a New York apartment. The porch was littered with cats and kittens, most of them black and white, and a few of them were just little babies. I'm a cat person, so immediately I fell in love with this sight. Over the next few weeks, I visited that street often, petting the kitties and the cats, and just having that alone time I craved so badly. Until one day, when I walked there, I saw that all the cats and the kitties were gone. I was so concerned and a bit on edge and just taken back by all this. So I decided I'd walk over to the other side of the road. I sat on the corner of the street on the road across from that house, and I called out to the kitties and the cats, "Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Here, cat, cat, cats." But there was nothing, no response from them, no meowing, no hissing, just nothing. I started to panic. I worried for those poor baby kitties and those cats. I calmed myself down and I decided to go home. maybe the cats and the kittens would be back tomorrow. I turned to leave and I started standing on the edge of the road. I turned to leave and standing on the other side of the road across from me was a dog. It looked like the mix of a Doberman and a blue heeler. It had a tail and a lean build, but overall its fur patterns were a heeler. It looked to be like a stray, sickly dog with its bones clinging to its skin. It looked to be a stray. It looked sick, and its skin was clinging to its bones. But I couldn't help but notice the eyes. They almost looked human. I knew that dogs could be extremely dangerous. And especially if they aren't domesticated. So I started to back away slowly down the road. At first, I just stood there, staring, unblinking, at me before it started to follow me, matching my pace. It moved robotically, like walking, not walking like a dog would, but more like a human being. Instead of the usual right front leg, left back leg, or vice versa, it walked with its left front and back legs, then the rights. Even walked with it, even more creeped out than I already was before. Even more creeped out than I already was before, I started to just speed up. The dog started to match that speed as well. I was about 10 feet ahead of it and on the other side of the road, so I rounded a corner, making sure it was not behind me. When I started to just sprint, the rain started to sprinkle down. I felt my hair start to soak in, and then the droplets smashed against my face as the rain got heavier. I kept running, ignoring the needle-like stinging of the pelting rain, not even looking back until I was about 2 houses away from my own. Then I stopped. I was panting, and I finally turned around. The dog is still about 10 feet behind me. I watched for a second as he watched me. Then, slowly and naturally, it turned and just walked away. I stood there, shocked, my head spinning, my throat and my chest burning from the sprinting, before I just calmed myself, before I came to my senses, and I just headed home, changing into dry clothes, laying in my bed. And I visit that house sometimes, and on certain occasions, I see 2 human eyes staring at me beneath this dark canopy of trees on that property. And that was our first Reddit story from one of our subscribers. I hope you guys like it. Now let's move on to the second one. And also, what did you guys think of that story? To me, I think she's dealing with a skinwalker. I don't like saying that word, but an SW. We'll just call it an SW. Okay. I'm allowed to say skinwalker because I am part Native American. As far as I know. I need to have a test done to make absolute 100% sure. But listen, my grandmother married a Native American man, and my aunt is half Native American. And that's just on my dad's side. I don't know about my mom's side, but yeah. And I'm pretty sure that's where I get my complexion from and my nose. So, and the high cheekbones. And the only thing I'm missing is the dark tan. But when I do tan, I do have a nice tone. But I'm just saying, like, I know you shouldn't say it if you aren't, the culture yourself. And I get that. But are we just supposed to do blank blank? No. You need to say it so other people know it. Anyways, that's just my little rant. whatever. The point is you're allowed to say things, even if you're not the culture, to help other people understand the culture, is what I'm saying. Anyways, let's move on to our next story. Now, our next story comes from another subscriber who sent this over on Reddit, and he would like, I think he's he or she, they, whatever, would like to stay anonymous. And I'm excited because this story, and hopefully not one of our last, it's really cool. They are from the Philippines. So this is where their story comes from. And this is what they sent us. This happened in my home country of the Philippines, like more than a decade ago, but I will never ever forget what happened. I went to my girlfriend's house late in the afternoon to hang out and just surprise her. The moment I arrived, I noticed that their car was not there in the driveway. So I texted her to see where she was. She said the whole family is out right now and will be back by 6 p.m. So when I was about to leave the house, I saw some movement behind the windows. So I texted her again. And I asked if her siblings were left home, and she said, nobody's at home. Like I said, what do you mean? I'm looking inside the window and they look like children. There's 2 of them right there. I can see them behind the window. So she said to just go home because those are not her siblings, but something much, much more sinister is lingering inside her house. So I was about to run for it, but I froze in fear. And then, out of nowhere, I heard these 2 small, high-pitched, little children voices right behind my back say, "Are you going home? Well, if you are, please take care and come back and visit us anytime." And then I finally worked up the courage and I jumped into my car and I left. And that day, it still sends me chills down my back. And I have chicken skin thinking about it. And that was part 1 of the kids' story. And we're going to move on to part 2. And did I say this person wants to stay anonymous? I think I said that, but I just want to clarify. They want to stay anonymous, and that's so, totally fine, because not everybody likes to shine in the light. And that's okay. So let's move on to the final part. Kids part 2. After my first encounter with these kids, I told myself, there is no way I will ever step back on that property. And I will never enter that house again. As things would have it, the next few months had passed, and my girlfriend, she had to ask me if I'd come over, and I told her I can't stay or even visit or just come inside that house, period. But she guaranteed me that those things are harmless, and all I needed to do is just ignore them and not show them fear. And, that's easier said than done, right? Well, so I gave in and I went there to visit. Right in front of their gated house, there is this force or this feeling that started pushing me away from the house and telling me not to come in. She went out to open the gate, and then we sat on the couch facing the staircase. She asked me to wait for 15 minutes because she needed to go get changed. And that's when things started to get unnerving. While she was changing, we were talking about some things when she came out of her room. Her room is downstairs, by the way. She asked me to check upstairs because she swore that she heard footsteps above us. Also, her older brother was on the other side of us in the kitchen prepping for lunch, thinking someone was upstairs, and it's just the three of us at that time. Well, me and his brother decided we were going to go investigate the staircase and see where the footsteps were coming from. As soon as we went over, the footsteps just immediately stopped. So we decided to just ignore it and go back to doing what we were doing because we were starting to feel on edge. So I went back to the couch and her brother went to the kitchen. While I was seated, I could feel this almost cold breeze behind my body. And so I turned around and I scanned the area and I saw nothing. And I even got up and I looked everywhere around me. Still, there was nothing. Until my gaze caught something at the staircase. And I was already just on edge. But when I saw that on the staircase, I froze where I was standing. And I slowly panned to look at the staircase. I could see this black, shadowy, small figure. And it was seated at the last step, just looking at me. Mustering up any courage I had left, I ran towards the kitchen shouting, "May demonoi," repeatedly in Filipino. Dark entity is what it means in Filipino. Until I got to my girlfriend's brother, we looked back at the staircase. There was absolutely no shadowy figure there anymore. It just disappeared. And the whole house became so unbearable. It felt like the cold feeling like a blizzard inside of a house. It was so cold, you just couldn't take it anymore. And that's when we heard the knocking sound. There was 3 knocks in a row, over and over again. My girlfriend, she became so severely frightened that she turned pale white. And that's when we decided to rush out of the house in the middle of the day and not go back in. And that was their story. As you can tell, I moved our video over to a different location for some quiet time because my family's home and they're a little loud. So let's get into our last subscriber story for now until we get some more in the future. So here we go. So this person wants to stay anonymous, which is completely fine. I give full credit, 100% credit to that person, even if they want to use their username or want to stay anonymous. And I respect that, like I said. So here we go. This story, it comes from her grandmother, and she calls her grandmother Mima, which is very, very sweet. So it says, my Mima passed away at the age of 96 in 2018. She and her other family members had a story that was told to her about a 6-toed Native American man who they would call Nancy for a nickname. And when Mima was just a little young lady, a little girl who lived in a very tiny town on the outskirts of Mississippi, Michael, I believe is how you pronounce it. If I'm wrong, I do apologize. I am dyslexic, so sorry if I pronounce words wrong. But I'll do my best. Anyways, you can correct me in the comments below. I apologize. So anyways, her several extended family members lived in several houses clustered together. So they were a tight-knit community. Very tight-knit family, as you would say. They called him Nancy because he would steal only women's clothes and belongings from the clothing lines, and he would wear them. He was especially fond of little girls' bonnets. Yes, that's right. The little bonnets you wear on your head. You would probably see them on, cosplayers, especially, Lolita cosplayers, the bonnets. He liked those. I mean, if you've ever seen, maybe, a baby bonnet, you know what I'm talking about? That, ribbon that ties around, and it's this big bonnet thing. That's what he would wear on his head. Anyways, so he was very fond of bonnets, obviously, and the family would find his footprints, and one of the foot had 6 toes. No one ever saw Nancy up close, but through glimpses, they would see a large man in the woods wearing a woman's dress with a baby bonnet. I'm just calling it baby bonnet, but a bonnet, nonetheless. I do wonder how they knew he was a Native American exactly, but unfortunately, she can no longer ask them. Mima said anyone could go out into the yard and yell, "Nancy, throw me a rock," and a rock would come sailing from the woods and hit the house. The house was too far from the woods for a normal man to throw a rock, and the rocks were often humongous, huge rocks that you could not normally just lift up and throw. Clearly, this man was like a giant. Mima said that her mother, my great-grandmother Sanders, told her while Grandma Sanders was washing dishes one day, home alone, she swore she heard somebody come through the back door. All the men folk were out working in the fields, and she was super frightened, and she did not dare turn around. Grandma Sanders picked up little Mima, which is her grandmother, from the floor and sat her beside the sink and just kept washing dishes like she hadn't heard or noticed anything. Nancy lumbered into the kitchen with Grandma Sanders in the kitchen. He opened the icebox, took some stuff out, and he just left. But he also left muddy footprints on the floor. And, of course, one of the footprints he had left had 6 toes. Grandma Sanders never turned to look at him. Mima said she was too young to remember exactly what he looked like. Another relative, I'm not sure who exactly, was home at night with some little ones, and she was ironing while the kids played around in the bedroom. She looked out the window screen and could see this very dark face looking back at her. The house was super old and built up on blocks. Whoever was looking in had to be extremely tall. She made the kids lay on the floor, flicked the lights off. I imagine it was a kerosene lamp and not electric. The lights, a kerosene lamp and not electric, but not sure. I imagine, I wrote that. I imagine it was a lamp, not camera. She laid on the floor with the children and could hear the man breathe through the window screen. Breathing was so loud, she decided it wasn't a man at all, but a horse that had come to the window to visit. She still couldn't get up the courage to even investigate the situation. She and the kids laid on the floor until they fell asleep, and then morning came. She and the kids laid on the floor until they fell asleep, and morning came. Of course, Nancy's distinctive 6-toe footprint was found outside that very window. Other than stealing clothes off the lines and occasionally stole food, he was considered harmless until he attacked an adult cousin of Mima's named Grover. Nancy seemed to follow Grover around everywhere. Grover could get Nancy to throw a rock from the woods no matter whose house he was at. One night, Grover was going down the way somewhere, and Nancy just attacked him. Nancy tore at his clothes and deeply scratched Grover all over his body. Mima said it looked like a bobcat got a hold of him, meaning Grover. In the dark and cumin, I don't know what that word is. In the dark, Grover never really saw Nancy's face under the shadow of the bonnet. After Grover's attack, the men in the family decided they would go hunt Nancy down. They hunted into the hills and hollers but never found him. They did find a small cave that had lizards and other small creatures tied to sticks hanging from branches. I'm not sure what Mima meant by this, but I imagine that it was shaped as dream catchers with lizards and small vermin woven into it. Mima's family moved away from Kilmajoy. I feel like I'm saying Kilmajoy, but it's not that. Kilmichael, I don't know how to say it. Not too much later, no other interactions with Nancy took place. I have often wanted to go to Kilmichael to see if there are any historical records mentioning a 6-toed cross-dressing Native American. I did write to a librarian that does historical research. She said that around that time, I guess in early 1900s, that Native Americans were being moved out forcefully in this area, and it wasn't unusual for some to stay behind. My Mima wasn't the type to embellish or tell tales. I believe what she says. So, that was our last story from our Reddit friends / new subscribers. So thank you very much for sending in your stories. And yeah, if you guys have any more stories you would like to send me, like I said, I keep saying it throughout the whole video, but listen, I'm just trying to let you know I need more stories, and you guys, come on, I tell my stories, let me hear yours, I'm curious. Yeah, just please send them to my email, you can send them to my Reddit, you can send them through TikTok. I have all my accounts listed on my about me on my channel, so just go to that and you'll see them. But yeah, so what did you guys think of these stories? And I will say the last one was, very much a real person, and I don't know, maybe this person was an unwell man and that's why he attacked somebody. But also, it must be difficult living in the woods by yourself. It could make you go a little crazy. I don't know. I do feel bad for the man a little bit, but also, he shouldn't have attacked somebody that was pretty messed up. And they did put up with the guy's antics. I mean, it's not like they were mean to him necessarily, you know what I mean? And he was creeping in the woods, being a weirdo, so you kind of can't blame them. Anyways, but yeah, what did you guys think of all these stories? I mean, they were all super scary.